What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Five Red Lights. My name is Justin. With me, as always, Howard Goldberg. And, dude, folks, go see the F1 movie. That's where I want to just put that out there before we start. Go see that movie. Howie and I just got out of it. We're going to talk about this movie a lot this episode. It was awesome. But we have a real race that we need to talk about first, my friend. The Austrian Grand Prix. And but before we do that, how we doing? I want to ask that at the beginning of every episode. What's going on?
We're good. We're great. We came out of that movie on a high.
It
did. Was fantastic. It was, going in, you hear mixed things about it. So it was kind of everything that you wanted it to be in terms of enjoyment. And so, that was awesome. It's got me flying high today. Got me flying high today. Put me in a good mood for the podcast. Just actually, when we got home, rewatched the race because yesterday, when the race was happening, I was out golfing. So a lot of what I saw yesterday was from online and what people thought about the race because I couldn't see most of it. And after watching, I think it was a better race than people give credit for. There's interesting stuff happening
here.
There's interesting stuff happening literally from the start to the finish. You had Carlos Sainz, who didn't even start. He couldn't get off the line on the formation lap. You had the lockup by Kimi that took Max out of the race, which, by the way, kind of exposed exactly where Red Bull is without Max at the moment.
Yeah, it did.
That's a back marker team. Like, what the heck is going on? You remember that incredibly famous now quote from Christian Horner when him and Toto were going back and forth at each other, and Horner is like, if you've got a fucking problem, change your fucking car. Well, the tables turned. The tables have turned. And
they certainly have.
That evidence that Toto had printed out, I believe him now. It is unbelievable to watch, and it's not just one driver. It's been a few drivers that have struggled to keep up the pace and really get what they need out of that second car.
So when I'm watching UD and Red Bull without Max in the car at this point, and I think this is a pretty widely held belief at this point, but maybe it's not. But I feel like I'm of the not understanding, but of the belief that I understand setting the car up the way you are because it's the way Max likes to drive it. Max is your guy. He's your four-time world champion. But at the same time, this is a team sport, and you have two drivers, and the last three guys who aren't Max have struggled in that second car, which means it's not just the drivers. It has to be.
No, that's my point. Is what I'm getting at is I don't think they've developed the car towards Max. Obviously he's the main person giving input from a driver's side. However, I think they genuinely tried to follow the development path that would give them just the fastest car. And in order to go as fast as possible, the car has to be relatively unstable. That's just kind of a thing. And the great cars of all time are the ones that have been able to go faster than any other car while maintaining stability. Like that first year or second year of the regulations, the RB19, before they really got too far down the development path, and the Mercedes W11, and that was just like a actual rocket ship. And so I think it's been their inability to kind of come back a little bit towards a more stable drive. Maybe you give up a little bit of raw pace, but your drivers are going to be able to get more out of the car. And I think like what we're seeing right now, the discrepancy between Max and the second driver, because of this difficulty of this unstable car that doesn't want to comply with the inputs, that's just down to Max being generational, a multi-generational talent. You know,
He's
like
that
Max
good.
Max is one of, people say he comes along once in a generation. I'm more of the belief that Max is the type of driver that comes along once every couple of generations. You know, like it's going to be a while before we see somebody of that level again, right? So
it just so happened that we saw
it's a car problem.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that argument that there's somebody like that, right? Because there's always going to be somebody that's better than everyone else out there. You know,
Lewis
like
won
we had that with Lewis.
Schumacher.
He's a generational talent. Schumacher, generational talent. But like when you look at it, it's almost 15 years between when all of these guys come up, right? Schumacher came up in like the early 90s. Lewis broke in 2007. Max came in like 2016. So like there's like those clear generational markers, and it's just like we've been very lucky to be able to see the top drivers with the top cars of their era.
Absolutely. And I think that it feels like if it keeps on going this way, dude, Max is going to leave Red Bull. And we'll see him at Mercedes, whoever.
Interestingly enough, him and George aren't that far apart now for fourth place in drivers.
Yeah, so let me take a look at that. Let me get this up. Results, team standings, driver standings.
While you're looking at that, Mercedes just off the pace this weekend.
Yeah, 9 points.
They didn't, aside from the Kimi accident, they weren't on for big points anyway. Ferrari, McLaren had their number. Lawson and Bortoleto looked fantastic. So like they would have had their hands full.
Absolutely.
So now what's that gap between George and Max?
It's 9 points
within a race. Yeah.
It's 155 to 146, and it's 15 points between Oscar and Lando too. I think Max is out of the world championship, at this point.
But there's that clause in Max's contract that
if he falls out of third place, he can leave. He can turn his contract, and get out of there.
Yes.
So
that was
Kimi
a funny
crashed.
meme I saw. It was like the Finding Nemo where he's like, "You that totally rocked, Squirt. Way to go!" And it was Kimi. Kimi was like the small fish, and the big fish saying, "Way to go, Squirt," was George, and it was or Toto, and it was like taking Max out so we can break his contract.
Dude, that movie also, Finding Nemo,
smacks
the best.
Yeah.
The best. All right, so we had the early crash.
Early chaos. Things kind of settled in through most of the field, and the early on the McLarens put on a show for us. That was really fun to watch. They kind of laid down the marker really early. We had a feeling after qualifying it would be their day, but they came out, and while the two of them were going wheel to wheel, fighting over position over the first 4 or 5 corners of every lap, they were still putting a gap on the Ferraris behind them, which was unbelievable. It's like these guys were in wheel to wheel combat and still were gaining on the cars behind them.
Lando finished 19 seconds ahead of Charles and 29 seconds ahead of Lewis. The Ferraris have looked a lot better the last couple of weeks, and it doesn't matter. It's just the McLaren
No,
is
but
that much faster.
they're definitely coming into form. It looks like this recent floor update that they brought to Canada has been working, which is really good to see from Ferrari. They were definitely under a lot of pressure from the media, from just the company. Like the board of Ferrari was starting to get anxious. Started hearing rumblings that Fred Vasseur's job was on the line, which was insane. I think now they'll get a little bit more leash. Things have kind of started turning their way in the last two races.
They need to absolutely,
and
they need to keep on.
Yeah, I think by the end of the season they're going to be the runaway second place team. I mean, just how quickly they caught up from being fourth after the first few races. Yeah, they're going to be a runaway second place team again.
They are 1 point ahead of Mercedes right now, and 207 points behind McLaren. So that's that. Red Bull.
Yeah, and so
Red Bull's
starting tomorrow, actually. Starting tomorrow, July 1st, is when you can start working towards 2026 regulations and start actually like building parts and using the wind tunnel for it. I expect McLaren very quickly to turn that over, because actually, though, now that I say that, they kind of have to keep this current car on for a little while to make sure one of their guys wins the championship, because they're not that far out of reach. They're not that far out of reach, because if they turn the car off, Ferrari keeps it on to try to win a championship for the first time in 20-something years, 18 years since 2007, then, I mean, yeah, that could end up getting pretty close somehow.
Are you talking about a constructors or a drivers championship?
Drivers.
Because Charles is 97 points behind Oscar. Okay. That's a lot of points. Yeah. So I mean, George or Max could catch him potentially. Is only 50,
I mean, then George is the one you have to be worried about, because that car does still seem competitive.
60.
But
yeah,
I mean, I think Mercedes has gotten better.
McLaren could definitely. I think they definitely.
I don't think you see them really. I don't really think you see them push it much after summer break, though. I think they'll have it pretty neatly wrapped up by then, because between now and then you've got England, you got Silverstone, Spa, I think Hungary. So you have those 3 races. They should be winning at Silverstone. They have the high speed cornering for that. That shouldn't really be close. Yeah,
I'm looking at the track right now. I mean,
Spa is kind of open. They should be winning that too, though. Hungary is a different story. I could see Mercedes actually being really strong in Hungary.
They could be strong regardless where they go, McLaren.
Anyway,
and Ferrari. Listen, Ferrari has been making a run later in the season the last couple of years. It would not surprise me if Charles closed the gap by any means.
No, but 99
points
97. That's too much to ask.
Yeah,
too much.
97 points would be historic.
But moving back to McLaren and that battle early in the race, one of those moments, like the marquee moments of the race, was coming, I think, out of turn 3. There was a switchback that happened in turn 3 where Oscar got past Lando switched back on him, kind of came back running down the inside towards turn 4, and they, I think, touched wheels, and it was like barely a tap. It was like hard to tell they really touched. Then fast forward, that was probably lap like 12, 13. Fast forward all the way to lap 28. This is after the pit stops. Oscar was 6 seconds behind Lando on the road, and he gets a radio message from the pit wall telling him that that contact in turn 4 with Lando was too much, and that he couldn't do that. They couldn't do that again. And here you're telling these guys that they're free to race and whatnot, and then all of a sudden mid race you're telling them you're kind of not free to race anymore. Um, to me, that sat really wrong. Not because of any kind of team order thing. That's just not the time to do it. Like you're to me, in my opinion, your bet is kind of made in that situation. You live with it. You live with what you've discussed before the race, that you're free to race each other. Also, just putting that in his head when he's not even battling Lando at the moment. He didn't go wheel to wheel with Lando the rest of the day. He wasn't close enough. So like it was just an unnecessary thing to say if you didn't know it was gonna apply. Right? Like wait till he's getting into DRS, which you almost had at the end of the race thanks to some lap traffic. But yeah, that one sat wrong with me. I didn't like that. Kind of goes along the theme of McLaren keeps saying that they have a plan with this, but I really think they have no clue what they're doing. I don't think
it's new
have
territory
any
for
plan
Zach.
whatsoever.
It's new. This is all new. Like this is not this is not the same regime that was dominant all those years ago. This is
that was Ron Dennis. He ran the company like with an iron fist. What he said went. It wasn't really, much of an input for drivers. So yeah, people
So this is
really
all new for
to
Zach
do
Brown.
that.
This is all new for Zach Brown, and they're learning on the fly. They're not always going to make great decisions, but I think that they need to figure it out soon, especially with this. I think that they'll keep the mantra of let them race, let them figure it out, because it is getting close. The standings, as I said before, it's 15 points now. And Lando, we have been critical of Lando, and all he's done is just continue to do well. He has 2 wins in his last 4. He's won. He had a DNF in Canada, which is unacceptable for him. But first DNF, second, first, second, first. Like he is on a great run right now since Miami. Although no, he came in second in Miami, but he won the sprint. So that's what that was. But he's on a great run right now, and he needs to keep it up.
Something I noticed about Lando, which I don't really think is actually his fault at that point, the amount that it happens. It could honestly, I think it might come down to his race engineer being an absolute knob. But he got a radio message when Oscar was chasing him at one point that said, try to hit the apex of turn 6. That'll hurt the car behind you. No shit, try to hit the apex. Are we trying to tell this guy like where the racing line is? Like, come on.
Are they trying to hold his hand?
Yeah, like it was a really weird radio message, and it was something that F1 TV immediately picked up on too. Julian Palmer immediately picked up on it. It was like, that's strange. That's like, or maybe it was DC who said it, David Coulthard. But it was like, that's a weird message. That's almost like, the ABCs of being a racing driver. And I'm starting to not think that it's Lando asking for that.
Yeah, they're just being weird about it.
Yeah. And because like it's not the first time that he's gotten messages this season that just seem like such an obvious piece of information. Like one that you or I sitting on the couch hears.
Maybe there's some things that we're not aware of.
But there could be.
Maybe.
I mean, I hope not. That would be a really bad one. So I hope not. But
that'd be a bad look for Lando. Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, they are running away with this, and
It's what we expected from
Mercedes
preseason
and
testing
Red
in
Bull
Bahrain.
fashion.
What we
Yeah.
expected.
I mean, we've seen with them since like second half of last season too. Like they've just been the best team, and it seems like that's just going to continue.
And
all right,
other trends. Speaking of other trends we've been seeing for a while.
Let's transition here.
Another trend that we've been seeing for a while. Did they possibly take a P2 away from Lewis?
He was not happy. He was
begging.
not happy with
I think he would have had a huge job ahead of him to stay in front of any of them, either McLaren. I mean, at the end of the day, they finished a second and a half away from each other. So I think ultimately it would have been a P3. But I mean, yeah. So like in one sense, I understand them not wanting to take a podium from one guy to give it to the other on strategy. You kind of want that to happen on the road. But at the same time, Lewis was quite literally begging them to leave him out. And they told him to come in. And it was one of those moments where you're like, just, what's like the downside of leaving him out, even for like a few more laps if he thinks his tires are okay, right? Like you don't have to do a full one stopper, but like leave him out a lap or two extra. See if like what he's saying is true.
I feel like we've been hearing this from Lewis all season. He is definitely one of the more vocal guys when he talks to his engineers, but he also is like he's a legend. He knows what he's talking about, so he's gonna be vocal. He's one of the best to ever do it.
I mean, that Mercedes strategy team led by like James Vowles is one of like the better strategy teams of recent F1 memory. Like he has been through a lot of moments where they kind of went against the grain. He's been a part of it, and it's benefited him more times than not.
Yeah.
So like, yeah,
absolutely.
It might be wise to listen to him in some of these situations.
So this is not. I feel like this is nothing new. This is just disappointing because this is our guy. We love Lewis. We want to see him succeed. It's been nice to see him. Let's see what were his most recent results.
Yeah, he's done back to back pretty well. 2 top 5s in a row.
Yeah, no, he had. What was he top 5? It says he was 6th in Canada. He was 4 this week. He had back-to-back 6s. Then he had back-to-back top 5s in Monaco and in Italy.
There it is.
But
yeah, so he's definitely
way
gotten a little more comfortable in the car.
Yeah, he's way more comfortable now than he was.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep on rooting for him, man.
Of course, I think Leclerc still has a slight advantage on him, but he's been in this car for years, so like,
or you think it's
that
age related?
Can still be expected. No, I think it's a familiarity thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still kind of a new language to Lewis, so he's definitely getting a lot more comfortable. He said at the beginning he'd need about 10 races to get comfortable. This was the 11th race of the year, so like we're still right there.
Yeah, he's scoring high. He's doing well
I'm excited
every week.
To see what happens. I think next race, next weekend, is a huge like kind of marker for Lewis. Silverstone. This is his best circuit. He's won there 10 times, and Lewis won last year at Silverstone.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did he win last year?
Yeah, which was just like an unbelievable moment. Him crying on the radio post race and his cool down lap, telling the team he loved them, telling Bono he loved him. It was unbelievable the way that they dominated Silverstone in their time together, Mercedes and Lewis, and just being able to send him out with a win there was unreal. But yeah, I think Ferrari has been really good at Silverstone the last 7 years or so, 6 years. You know, Leclerc has finished on the podium a few times. Sainz got his first win there. So like Ferrari has a car that kind of fits the circuit. has the attributes fit the circuit. Lewis obviously is an assassin there. So yeah, I'm excited to see him rock up home crowd. He should be feeling pretty confident after this weekend. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Is this
Might be
how
putting an
he?
early Lewis podium shot. First podium
Yeah,
with
I was about to say, is this how he shooting his like taking his
yeah, which
share? And are you
yes,
predicting a Lewis podium or a win maybe?
yes I am. And I also recently predicted a Ferrari win at Monza. I
That's
think
true.
it's happening. I think they've shown that they're good at these circuits that have long straights, chicane. Monza and Canada are so similar. Long straights, chicanes, hairpin. I
Yeah.
mean, the parabolica isn't quite the hairpin that you have in Canada, but it's like the same type of effect. You know, you're actually you're not really going to pass anybody in the parabolica. It's kind of a one racing
What part's
line
the
corner.
parabolica? Like
The
which turn?
parabolica, it's that last corner that leads onto the main straight. The parabolica, it's
Eight.
like a big
Yeah.
U.
Oh, I see it.
It's one of the famous corners in Formula One. Yeah, I mean they won there last year with Charles. I think it's looking good for them there.
All right. Official prediction. Anything else on Austria or anything? I mean, I'm gonna pick McLaren to
Yeah.
win in Great Britain. I want to talk about this movie though.
Okay. Yeah. No. Just two quick shout outs. Liam Lawson, P6, really good day for him. Good weekend. He was P3 in one of the practice qualifying sessions. So yeah, he was fast all weekend. So was Gabriel Bortoleto, F2 champion last year. Finally arrived. Scored his first points in F1 this weekend. Had a nice little wheel to wheel battle with Fernando, his manager, at the
Yes,
end of
that
the
was
race.
great.
They shared a nice hug afterwards. That was a cool moment. But yeah, really happy for the two of them. They've not had the easiest years so far, so it's good to see them both score. Double points
Absolutely.
for Albert.
Honestly, like it's a little embarrassing at how much more consistent both drivers do in that V car than the actual Red Bull.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
kind of what I was getting at before of give up a little of that raw pace for stability. We've seen how it benefits the drivers in the V carb.
yeah, I don't know, man. I know we were saying that a lot of it has to do with the car, um, but
It's the two same drivers.
yeah, I know
Yuki was
it's crazy.
crushing it in the V carb, can't do anything in the Red Bull, and vice versa with Lawson. Same thing with
Yeah,
Lawson. So
same thing with
yeah. All
yeah,
right.
same thing with the last couple. So all right, yes, let's move
Want to
on.
move on to this movie?
This movie.
I've done a
Um,
lot of the talking about the race, so I kind of want to give you the floor. Open up with your first
well,
thoughts about the movie.
I came in with I think
I
higher
guess yeah.
expectations than you did,
Let's
and
hold
I
it.
would
First, I guess let's I guess what were your expectations going into it?
they were high. I mean, I was seeing people talking about how this was the movies. Like, first of all, so this movie has been getting a lot of hype, um, and it's doing well in reviews. But the biggest thing about this movie, uh, I get a little more technical with this stuff. I love movies. Joseph Kosinski is a very talented director, and he has done a lot of uh, like big, expansive movies. The movies that you've probably seen that he's done, on Legacy back in the day, 2010, he did. He did Oblivion with Tom Cruise, and he did Top Gun Maverick. And with Top Gun Maverick was
they brought back movies. They brought back the industry after COVID. Let's call it what it is.
So it was the big,
hit.
like the first big movie post COVID that I mean, off the top of my head.
The first movie that people said, I gotta see that.
Yep, and the way that, but it's more. It's not just that it was a great movie. I mean, it was, but it was why was it a great movie? It was the way it was filmed, and how
the innovation behind it.
How intimately involved these actors and these producers and directors get with these two projects in particular, Top Gun Maverick and F1. The technology, like you mentioned,
immersive.
The camera work, the immersion is second to none.
They quite literally create new technology for these cameras.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it was Tom Cruise flying those fighter jets. It was the actors like Miles Teller like flying the fighter jets. It was Brad Pitt like driving these cars. It was Damson Idris driving these cars, and they did it during the coolest part about this movie was it wasn't there. I'd be surprised.
You don't need to know
like
anything
any CGI.
about Formula One.
They do a good job explaining things. They do.
But like going into it, you don't need to know anything about Formula One to enjoy it. It's just like a great story, great movie, fun to watch.
It's super entertaining. It has incredible entertainment value that is rare in cinema and in TV. We see it often because there's been so many great projects that have put out recently, but it to this level, it's really rare that we see something achieve what this movie and Top Gun Maverick have achieved. And it's literally immersing you into these worlds where you feel like you are like. Well, first of all, we saw it in IMAX. And I think that if you're going to see a movie like this, it needs to be IMAX. You need to be fully
seeing the racing action
grounded
in that way is just next level. The sharpness of the shots is just unreal.
I mean,
you feel like you're sitting in the cockpit.
For IMAX. Yeah, absolutely. But the coolest part about this movie is, you see them lining up next to Max Verstappen. You see Lewis Hamilton. And Joshua Pierce, who is played by Damson Idris, who was fantastic in this movie. You see him and Lewis kind of giving each other eyes, like kind of a little bit of rookie going after like the king, because this movie takes place in 2023. And Lewis is still like at Mercedes, and I mean, it was Red Bull dominating.
You also have to imagine like the character Joshua Pierce, black rookie driver. I would imagine he looked up to Lewis a lot, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As kind of the trailblazer in the sport for people of color. So like, yeah, that was also kind of how I saw that. That was like he was looking at Lewis like, wow, that's like my guy, but I'm here to beat him. And Lewis was kind of looking back at him like, respect for making it, but I'm not letting you beat me. And like that's kind of like how I took that moment. It was really cool. I think also one of the really special things about this movie was the way that they embedded themselves into Formula One for a couple years. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. Certainly not possibly in like military movies, but like I'm talking about in the sports sense. We have never seen anything like this of fully embedding. They literally were the 11th Formula One team for a year and a half, and they didn't have the luxury of setting up every shot that they wanted. They didn't have the luxury of doing unlimited takes. They didn't have the luxury of telling this car, like, we want you right there, right then. Like it was finite what they were allowed to do, and they got in there and they did their job really freaking well without getting in everybody's way. And it's really unbelievable to think about that.
It really is impressive. I think Formula One is or was
Credit
and
to
still
them. They leaned into it.
Oh, for sure. But what I was going to say is I think that this is a sport that it was very well set up to be able to handle the sort of infrastructure that gets imposed into your sport, with all the Netflix cameras so often, and there is a lot of downtime and a lot of time to get footage. A lot of this stuff was filmed during practice sessions, which is all the more impressive that they were able to make everything look so competitive, because these passes that they were making in these cars were all real.
They were able to choreograph some stuff for practice, and it was incredible.
This wasn't an F1 car. It wasn't. It was an F2 car, but
heavily modified, but an F2 car.
That car is still going 200 miles an hour, and Brad Pitt, but like it's still going really fast.
Yeah, probably like 170, 175 top speed.
At that point, it doesn't even matter.
It's all relative.
Damson Idris and Brad Pitt did an incredible job getting up to speed and driving these cars. It was so much fun to watch. So cool. They didn't interact other than that there was a moment with Damson and Lewis. A lot of it was just cool, like hearing call outs and they pass Pierre Gasly on the outside, and seeing the call outs.
It was very much, the drivers were very much parallel in it. They weren't like main characters. They were in it because they were there.
You see that, and you'd see them. They had footage of guys on the podium, and the IMAX cameras were filming at all times, basically during when they could be during the season.
Which for me, was awesome. Like, huge spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie and are still listening. What are you doing? But anyway,
we've been doing spoilers. But spoilers from here on out. We're gonna talk spoilers from here on out.
Yeah, no, but at the end, I said to you, when they were on the podium in Abu Dhabi, I was like, Charles and George, they're up there right now spraying Brad Pitt with champagne. They're gonna remember
Javier Bardem too.
They're gonna remember that moment for the rest of their lives.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sick. I listened to Ryan Lowe interview George Russell a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. The day after the premiere, I believe, and George was gushing about how cool it was to be part of this whole process in the film. I think the drivers really I remember you sent me a video of Kim, being kind of not cagey, but just being oh yeah, it was cool, and that had you a little worried. I remember being
it did, and.
But I think that that
honestly, that was the best thing that could have happened to me.
But that's the definition of he's an 18-year-old kid who probably doesn't watch any movies and has the attention span of like a squirrel. And because that's what 18-year-old kids are these days. As I speak, I'm a 30-year-old guy at this point. When I was 18, my attention span was very split between a million things. I mean, he's an F1 driver. A lot of these guys are watching many movies. To be honest, they're pretty busy.
They travel a ton.
That's true. They do travel a lot.
They probably watch TV or movies.
But Kimmy's 18. He's not watching 3-hour movies. He was probably squirming. But that definitely helped your expectations.
But what I said, right, and there were some things that Carlos said about how, if you're a diehard F1 fan looking for things that aren't accurate, you're going to see them and it might disappoint you. And so hearing those kinds of things was the best thing that could have happened to me. It might sound like negative press for the movie when they say that, but honestly, it's really good and it's necessary to help people readjust their expectations, because what had they been telling us this movie was? They said it was the most authentic look into Formula One that we've ever gotten, right? And in some ways, that's true. And I'll get to it. But I mean, at the core of it, this was a Hollywood story, and it was just set in the world of F1. And that's how it should have been told. That's how it should have been marketed, not as a super authentic F1 experience. And the parts of that were very authentic, I thought, was we've never gotten like a look inside like team briefings and them discussing strategy and going through like you had like the FIA in there scrutineering the car. And like so in aspects like that, like yeah, new things were introduced to us that were that are part of F1 that we don't really usually get to see. But like at the core of it, like it was Hollywoodized, Things
Has to
were
be.
embellished for the
It has to
story,
be.
and that's the way it has to be. And so being able for me to kind of readjust those expectations, it helped make this such an enjoyable movie for me. I mean, I left that theater without a single complaint.
There's something to be said about entertainment value. And if this movie was a one-to-one encapsulation of Formula One, would have been a lot of boring parts. Like, I'm sorry, like Sonny Hayes would have gotten suspended, fined, grid penalties, like for the shit that he was
Brother would have
pulling.
had like
He would have been
18
kicked off.
penalty points in his first 3 races. Yeah.
It would have been kicked out for the shit he was
Probably
pulling.
would have got
like
he raced what 9 races. They said there was 9 races left in the season.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he would have had probably 2 penalty suspensions in that time.
There was a point in the movie where he caused 3 separate
safety cars on purpose
to help his
Plan
teammates.
C, chaos, baby.
To help Pierce JP get their like Apex GP's first ever points. He decided to rip off his front, like the left part of his front wing 3 different times. Which, do they even have extra front wings on hand usually? Really?
They do. I don't know if they have that many.
Yeah, like he did it a lot.
I mean, they
would
have that many for the team, but usually it's 2 extras per car.
Yeah,
so,
that,
they'd have to
change unrealistic. That's obviously unrealistic. That's that's the
he would have been black flagged. He would have been told to retire. Yeah.
But who cares?
There was
that's where I stand.
Also in Abu Dhabi, I turned to you and was like, how does he have DRS? There's no one in front of him.
Yeah.
And so
all of a sudden he's in 4th place. And we're like, where what when did he get fourth?
Sonny was holding up the pack in 12th, and then they cut
all of a sudden
4th. It's like, all right, great story, helped him get the win, but
everything I want to say this: there weren't plot holes other that DR thing, sure, but there was no major plot holes where I was like, all right, that's ridiculous. Everything made sense in that regard. Everything fit together. But even if it didn't, that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is Cargo Pass. I'm locked in. This is awesome. I want to see them win.
Absolutely.
And I felt like a kid, like a little kid with a big stupid grin on my face the entire movie. I'm tearing up at the end because Sonny all of a sudden gets into first place, and he I wasn't sure. So interestingly enough, I saw a tweet the other day, and there was a version that they filmed where Sonny gets out of the car, and I'm not sure if it was after he had won the race event or if he had crashed and he was walking. And he staggers exactly and he falls onto a little bed and collapses because they were showing him with his eye with his vision blurring, and that was an alternate ending I guess that they picked. I'm so happy that they decided to go in this direction and have him win. But one other thing that stood out to me, it was a revolving door Not that's not the right phrase. It was a turning point in the movie for me. I was like, what kind of movie is this going to be? Is this going to be just like a feel good bullshit story, or is there going to be some adversity that they need to overcome? First of all, based on all the marketing, this is another thing. I thought it was going to be Josh Pierce, Damson Idris's character, or sorry, I thought it was going to be Brad Pitt. That was gotten that big crash in the marketing. I just that was a good little redirect, and I can see Josh Pierce
and connecting that
crashing.
with Sonny's accident from decades earlier, and how like that kind of helped bond the two of them almost, you know?
Yes. He still had some work to do to like kind of get closer to Sonny.
That was fascinating.
That was a moment like where we were sitting there and we were like dead. The whole theater was dead silent. Which great theater crowd, by the way. No one texts, no one yelling, no one talking.
Nobody
it was great.
Disrespectful. It was awesome.
Right. It was fantastic
for people when they showed up.
Yeah, it was just that was a good piece of filmmaking right there. But the moment that changed for me, like the movie and the tone and direction of it, it was Carrie Condon, who was fantastic in this movie. She played Kate McKenna. She was the engineer, the love interest for Sonny Hayes.
The
technical director, excuse me. She was so good. You may know her from Banshees of Inisherin, and
brief appearance in Ray Donovan.
Yeah, she's been in a bunch of different things. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and apparently she was in a bunch of the Avengers movies. Was she in the Avengers? Anyway, they're sitting at the bar, and yeah, apparently she's just in it. They're sitting at the bar or at the in a pub in I don't know, England somewhere, and it's Brad Pitt and Carrie Condon's characters, and it's kind of hitting on her, but also it's like, listen, like we need to like get our shit together and like, make changes. We need to get through this dirty air, blah blah blah. It was basically like it's
him
to
telling
like make
her
changes.
How to change the car that she built.
Right. And I thought it was going to be like I was getting was her being like acquiescing and being like, "You're so right, Sonny.
Okay, we'll try it your way, yeah.
Let's try it your way. You're the old grizzled vet." And she basically told him to fuck off. It was like, "How about you finish a race first, and then you can start telling me to do my job." And she gets like she gets in his, not in his face, but like she stands up.
She
and
gets
like,
up and walks out with a full beer still on the table.
And I was like, you know what? Okay. Sure. Like
he had 2 of the biggest moments in the movie. That one, and then also.
Yeah, I had respect for her after that, her character after that. And it made you, it forced you to take her seriously.
Yeah.
This is a role that she was in was the first female technical director in F1 history. She's fighting against misogyny and gender roles and making history. And she's already been going through it. So for her to be a strong character, I thought really made the film just better. Instead of her just like a floozy love interest for Brad Pitt to like, oogle at and make out with and sleep with. She was integral to the team. I also thought it was a great moment with the
when they went and
the pit crew member. Where she was like, let's
left the wheel gun. She was late. She was slow. Couldn't.
And she was like, hey, thanks for like.
She left it there. He ran over the tire. He tried to stick up for her, and she was like, I appreciate that, but doing that made it seem like I need to be protected. And like, it's kind of a powerful moment of where women kind of stand in sports in their own eyes,
Absolutely. Especially this is a male dominated sport. Obviously, the women's circuit is growing, but it's still, pales in comparison. to what the
there's
male
that
circuit is. So it was
that
just
need to prove themselves, which
you know
they shouldn't
they
have to do, you know?
absolutely. But I just found both those moments, but mainly Kerry Condon, telling Sonny Brad to fuck off. I that changed the tone of the movie for me. Made it less of like a Disney Remember the Titans miracle type of movie where everything just builds up to like, everything's going right to like, all right, there's going to be adversity in this movie. They're actually like, this is a movie. This is Apple. This is not Disney. There's going to be crashes. There's going to be heartache. There's going to be danger. And not everything is going to go and be, perfect. It's going to be a real story. And that's what we got. This movie sets the tone for the summer. This movie sets the bar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
we talked about that
out.
on the way into the movie. There's so many to see. You got Superman coming out soon. We've got Fantastic Four, the Jurassic Park movie, which we've heard does not have very good reviews. There's the new Now You See Me movie coming. I mean, like, there's so much. A new Predator movie. Like, it's crazy. We're living in a golden age right now.
It's good. It's great stuff. But Kaczynski did a fantastic job, and they're already talking about doing a sequel. Give me all the Sonny Hayes stories you possibly can. There's rumors. These aren't really substantiated. It's more just like fans like asking for it of Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt crossover movie with Days of Thunder.
Well, you know why those rumors happened, right? Because
they were at the premiere.
Brad Pitt wanted Tom Cruise wanted Brad Pitt to do the latest Mission Impossible with him, and Brad Pitt said, "When you do something back on the ground, give me a call."
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of where it sparked from, because like obviously he did Days of Thunder, the NASCAR movie. So it's like, maybe you have like these two old drivers try to go win Le Mans together. Who knows? Call me Joe.
That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Give me a call. But yeah, no, I mean, back right to that first scene, even like at the very beginning of the movie, they're at Daytona, sports cars, and like right when it got into like the racing, like we just like looked at each other and we're like, oh shit, this is great.
The moment we gave each other a little fist bump. We gave each other a little fist bump, and the moment was so Daytona, the 24 hours of Daytona, and they introduced Sonny and his personality, and then he's a loner. He lives in his van. He goes where the racing is. He's not going to be part of any team. And Javier Bardem's character, who was his old teammate back in the day, in F1, finds him in a laundromat and asks him to join his team. And so he's reluctant. Finally, he agrees, and then it cuts almost like a Mission Impossible. Like how like the credits start rolling, like a half hour into the movie, and they're like, you get like the match sound, and all of a sudden like the fuse goes off, and you get the music going to start the movie off. It cuts to Apex's testing track, and you get to meet Jameson Idris's character, Joshua Pierce, and like the music drops, and it goes like a Jerry Bruckheimer production, and like the music is like just so epic, and like we looked at each other like
score.
I was like, this is everything I've wanted in movies my whole life. This is why we come to the movies. This movie delivered. Yeah. Like the John Wick, like, I'm thinking I'm back. I'm thinking 5 stars.
You back? I'm thinking I'm back. Just
the movies are
but there's one more moment that I really, really enjoyed in the movie, one more scene, and that was when they were at like that bar that both both Joshua and Sonny got those notes in their room that there was the team dinner.
Oh yeah.
In Vegas, and it was really just Kate sitting at the table, and it was all arranged by the boss and all arranged by Ruben. And yeah, it was an amazing scene. It was the moment that like put them on the same side, you know, and it really got it showed how unselfish it showed that Sonny was there for the team and not himself. You know, it kind of showed how much he cared about his friend's business and how he wasn't willing to let the team go down. You know, like they played Texas Hold'em to see who would be the number one driver and of that weekend. And JP went all in and flipped a pair of fives. And Sonny just threw his cards down, face down, handed him the win. And afterwards, it was like this cheeky moment where he said something to her. I can't remember exactly what he said. Kind of like flirty line. And she said back, well, I only like winners or something like that. And he flipped over the cards and revealed pocket kings with another king in the draw. And it was just like he was sitting on
them making out
3 of a kind kings. Yeah. And it cuts to the scene in the elevator that you've seen from the trailer where they're just like boom, making out.
Yep.
And yeah, that was a really cool scene. Kind of put them on the same team, connected the drivers by kind of revealing that both of them lost their father when they were 13 years old. And so like common ground, pulling in the same direction.
Plus also having like a major crash, near-death experience.
Yeah.
That they built the chemistry throughout the movie was
and also
believable.
A very
impactful
moment there was an impactful moment for JP too, because of that line Sonny said, you know, they were talking about like the media and expectations and all that noise. And Sonny was like, it's just that it's just noise. And you kind of see that before Abu Dhabi. He says that JP says that same exact line when his cousin, or I think that was his cousin, right? His manager cousin.
Yeah, his cousin
was telling him, come on, we got to go do media. And he's like, I don't care about that. I got to focus on driving. All that other stuff is just noise. And it kind of like, okay, he finally accepted what Sonny was trying to tell him. And
they were building up to that too.
It kind of came
tennis balls.
Yeah,
you know?
showed him in the simulator at Monza after he was recovering from that accident, and he tried over and over and over again to see if he could make that move that he tried work around the outside at Parabolica in the wet. And he couldn't get it. And he said, you know what, reset it. And he tried to do what Sonny told him, and it worked on the first try. And he kind of was like, ah, shit, he wasn't trying to torpedo me. He was genuinely telling me what to do. And that also was very powerful in the movie.
Yeah. It was great, man. Go see this movie on the biggest screen you possibly can. It's worth it. I promise. It's loud. It's fun. Even if you're honestly, a racing fan, you're gonna enjoy it.
Quite literally had me at the edge of my seat at certain points. You saw that, right? I was like leaning. We were in like these big, soft, cushy IMAX seats, and I was like leaning forward.
Yep. It was awesome. It was awesome. I can't wait. That's gonna be like it's a rainy Sunday. What's on TNT? Oh, the F1 movie.
Rainy Sunday and or snowy Sunday in like January. Out of season.
It's the first race since he joined the F1 team. Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch the rest of this movie.
Yeah, missing it a little bit. Yeah.
It's gonna be great. I can't wait. Everybody knocked it out of the park. Javier Bardem was great. Idris was great. Condon was great. Pitt was great. Callie Cook, who was Tobias Menzies, who was like the villain. The guy who played the team principal, Kasper Smolinski, he was really great. Sarah Niles, who if you guys watch Ted Lasso, is the therapist. She plays Damson Idris's mom in this movie. She was great. Everybody went for it. Everybody did a really great job.
She had a chance to rip into Sonny. That was cool.
Yeah, she had a moment.
It
there.
was like
apparently
honestly,
Daniel
like
Ricciardo was in this movie.
Honestly, that's like the one time that you saw Sonny back down in the whole movie.
Yeah.
He was like,
you know who?
He was like about to be like, no, actually, you know what? And she started up again, and he was just like, sure, and turned around and walked out.
Wait, you know who low key out of all the drivers got the most name dropped the most in the entire movie? Kevin Magnussen.
Oh. I feel like we heard Perez's name a lot. We heard Perez's name a lot.
We heard Sergio a couple of times. We heard Bottas. Magnussen got shouted out a couple of times because the Apex GP cars were going
They took a shot at Magnussen. Anybody who knows K-Mag knows he's not letting you go by or something like, you know.
And I do love like Gunter Steiner, who used to be the Haas team principal, got some FaceTime and flipped off the Apex GP team, and they returned the favor, and it was a little comedic relief there.
You had a little Gunter pop off the pit wall and go
exactly. It was great, man. It was great. I can't wait to watch it again. But yeah, what a movie. All right. I think that's unless you got anything else, I think that's it for us this week.
I do not. That's it. I guess just recap our predictions, I guess, for Silverstone, right?
McLaren. I'm gonna go with
McLaren.
Lando. I think he wins. I think Lando wins his home race.
I'm gonna
Ferrari.
go Oscar.
You had Ferrari, I thought.
Just Oscar to win, but I think Lewis is on the podium.
Okay. I'll take that
that's
too.
Monza. That's Monza that I think Ferrari's going to win, not Silverstone.
Okay. But yeah. I like the Ferrari. I like Ferrari this week too, but I mean it's McLaren. I think Lando's going to win his race. And sure, one of the Ferraris will be on the podium. I can buy that.
Kimi Antonelli top 5.
Ooh, spicy. Okay.
He won there in F2.
You put him on your fantasy team?
He already is.
There you go.
He was my double points driver this week. That was brutal. I had him and Max and Red Bull as a team. Oh,
I had Williams, so I had a double DNF also.
Thank God I had both Staubers and Gasly though. So like I got some points for cheap. So
okay, that's good. Oh. All right, folks, that's it for us. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Busy 4th of July weekend. We got the British Grand Prix. Should be a good one. And we'll talk to you guys next week. All right. Any final thoughts?
We just did that.
You're right. Oh my God. It's been a long day of F1. Peace.
Peace.